at the behest of Autodesk and Strikedeck to talk about a very important topic, the fast-changing customer success and customer experience landscape, and how fast growth organizations work. So my name is Irene Lefton. I'm a customer success executive and evangelist, currently between companies, but passionate about customer success, and I'm a part of the Customer Success Leadership Network Governing Council, who puts on these events. Our focus and mission is to sustain the function of customer success, and in particular, to help grow leadership. So, with that, we'll get started. And we do have two main topics that we're going to cover tonight. And before we get into them, I want to ask by a show of hands, so our speakers and then our speakers will introduce themselves momentarily, who we have in the room. So, by a show of hands, how many of you are customer success executives? Okay, great. CEO or other executives? Other functional executives? One, okay. CS practitioners, people who work in customer success. Good. And any other practitioner or consultants? A handful of those. Okay, great. And for your companies where you work, even if it's for yourself, if you're a consultant, how many of you have companies that are under 10 million in ARR? Quite a few, okay. 10 to 50 million in ARR? And 50 to 100 million ARR? And over 100 million in ARR? Okay, so a nice distribution. And then how many of you are B2B? The majority. And then B2C? What's the rest? Okay, great. B2B2C, that's B2B. Okay, so we're going to kind of break the talk tonight into three parts. We have two kind of areas to discuss, and then we'll take some questions from the audience for our third part. I already introduced myself. I'm a consultant, advisor, blogger, author right now, and I'm going to ask Giri and Sheri to introduce themselves. So before we do that, I do want to thank Autodesk and Strikedeck for the beautiful space and the food. So let's have a round of applause for our sponsors. Thank you. We appreciate it. So Giri and Sheri, I'm going to have you go first, Giri. If you could just kind of give us a brief introduction, your company, your background, your role, and in particular how you or your company defines customer success.
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So I'm Giri Iyer. I'm the Senior Vice President of Customer Support and Customer Success at Rubrik. We are based in Palo Alto. And the company is in cloud data management. So both a SaaS platform as well as data center platform, software-wise, right? So we're kind of somewhat of a hybrid. So in terms of my own background, this is just completing my 29th year in the services industry, right? So I've seen things from the early 90s to up to now. The whole landscape evolved, right? Especially with customer success, and I have some thoughts about that I'll mention later. But customer success, at least at Rubrik, was something that was done very beginning of the company being established. And I find that refreshing because many companies look at customer success, customer experience as an afterthought. Oh, we've grown, we've got customers who are unhappy, let's get someone to go manage them, right? But at Rubrik was, when we had less than 20 customers, we started the customer success team right then, right? So when I came on board, and so in addition to hiring customer support, we had to make sure that we had people that were looking at customer experience, right? Customer support's function is reactive. They fix issues and move on, right? We want someone to look at customer experience with our product and our software in a very holistic manner, right? Are they getting the outcome that they paid money for your product? And how do we measure that, right? So we need to be proactive, reach out to them, ask them how's their journey with the product, the software, right? So given that we did this very early on in the company's life cycle, the company today is 1,500 people. When I joined 2.5 years ago, we were 165 people. So rapid growth, right? So my team was 6 people 2.5 years ago. We had north of 165 people globally, expected to grow to 220 people by the end of this year. Right? So we've seen rapid growth, but first and foremost, I would say is keep customers first, right? Everything revolves around customers. If the company's DNA, the company culture dictates that, makes my job easier, right? So I don't have to socialize, upsell, try and say DD support, right? So this has been very refreshing for me, right, at Rubrik. It's really paid off handsomely. I'll give you some stats later. So with that, I'll turn to Sheri.
Giri, you need Medallia.
Yeah.
Hi, Sheri Kahn. I'm the SVP of Product Marketing at Medallia. In case you have not heard of Medallia, we are a experience management platform company. So we help companies like Rubrik, if you'd like, or companies like yours, to instrument experiences by understanding the customer, the employee, which is as critical as the customer, as you all know. Understand that journey, detect patterns, predict behavior, and ultimately be able to make changes that impact and improve the experience. Again, for customers, for accounts, for employees, for products, all of the above. Okay, so that's what Medallia does. I mentioned product marketing, so my team has traditional product marketing responsible for all the positioning, messaging across our platform, across all the products we sell, as well as solutions marketing, so our vertical messaging, we've got a lot of horizontal solutions that we go to market with. And then I've got customer marketing and go-to-market strategy and pricing.
Great. Good. So now you know who's here, and you know who's here. So Giri, I'm going to start with you. As a customer success leader, and you described the rapid growth that Rubrik has had over the last couple of years, what have you seen, and in particular, what's changed as your company has experienced the growth? Because we always talk about what you need for customer success is different at different stages of company, and you've kind of rapidly gone through those stages. So share with us a little bit about that, please.
So given that we were not a SaaS company, typically the prominence of customer success really came to the forefront with SaaS companies, right? Salesforce.com and others in the space really started building this whole function out. So it was traditionally associated with SaaS companies because you could look at customer motion, you had all that data, right? Shrink-wrap software products or services products that did not have a cloud presence typically didn't think of customer success as being something really important. They never invested in that before. The customer is changing that landscape now. They want more, and more is just not a voice that they can call into, right? They're expecting you to make sure that they realize the outcome that they want from their perspective, not from the vendor's perspective, but from their perspective, right? Which means, am I getting the ROI for which I invested in, right? How fast am I able to realize that ROI once I've deployed the product, right? So customer success, we are seeing more and more that even traditional shrink-wrap software products or services companies are investing a lot more in customer success. The function is now resonating across not just large enterprises. We're seeing this, I was telling Irene earlier today, right? Something refreshing I'm seeing is that even startups, just Series A startups, are opening roles in customer success, which would have never happened 15 years ago, right? So it's, to us, we see this as important because if you want to build a customer journey and build a customer relationship that transcends the first sale, build customer lifetime value, build loyalty, build trust, build promoters, build guardians of your product, you have to invest in this function. You cannot depend on traditional approaches, which was account management from a sales perspective or support, to be driving this. You have to have this function to really realize growth in your install base, right? I always go back to saying one thing, which is proven already, right? It's easier to try and grow with an existing customer if you're doing everything right. I think there are statistics that are out there. It's 5x more cheaper, 7x more cheaper than to try and acquire a net new name customer, right? So be mindful of who you have as a customer. Really have to be proactive, really have to be empathetic, make sure you're listening to them and taking that voice of that customer to us, customer success at Rubrik, is to be able to work across all departments of the company, not just support, but product management, engineering, sales, right? So it's become a very prominent role within the company, which is why we have a seat at the table, right? So it's huge for us because we know the value of customer success and customer experience.
Sheri, so you come from the product marketing side, a little bit different. So how do you and your team work with customer success? And in particular, are there any shared metrics between the two?
Okay, so first, let me just share, I view, by the way, I know customer success, I realize it's a function, but I think customer success is owned by everyone.
Yeah.
I come from a company, of course, that we're all about helping our customers ensure their customers are successful, engaged, happy, all of that. So I just want to share that perspective. But customer success from a more traditional definition at Medallia, there's really two functions. We actually have a brand new chief customer officer. There was a person that led our professional services team prior to that, but I love that, and as we got a new leader, they upped the title. It's a chief customer officer, which is fantastic. So that person really owns our professional services, and then we also have a global head of account management who is charged with the success of our customers and renewals and traditional from that perspective. Both of whom report directly to the CEO. So critical. In terms of shared metrics, I think from at the end of the day, how do I know is product marketing successful? It's our contribution to moving ACV. Most of you are B2B companies, so you're hopefully familiar with ACV. So we do a lot to help make more so the sales team successful in terms of building and closing pipeline. While professional services is much more about the satisfaction with the services team and the hours and things like that. And with account management, of course, it's just the overall success and happiness of the customers. But I say that because I think we have individual metrics, but at the end of the day, we're all looking at the same metric, which is around NPS and other engagement satisfaction numbers with Medallia. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So we share that.
Just add one thing
That's great.
So how we partner with marketing at Rubrik is every time we have a customer with a customer, customers complete surveys, right? Typically they reside only in support, they don't get out to other organizations. We use Slack heavily as a company. So we have a Slack channel so that things go directly into Slack as well. So the entire company, as what Sheri was mentioning, we engage the entire company into the customer success experience, right? Our customer experience with the product, with the people, with the tools that we provide, right? So an engineer that's developing the product, if they can see what customers are saying about the product or the experience that they're having, that they are a lot more engaged in terms of seeing the feature, seeing requests for enhancements getting completed, because they own it. They're now seeing the feedback coming directly. So we try to be as transparent. So all the feedback that we get from our customers goes to the entire company, so they can see it. We also have a program in marketing, our customer marketing engineers. There's a program called the Guardian program, which is really our promoters. So we feed information from the customer success team straight to our counterparts in marketing, so that they can go to outreach to all our promoters, do campaigns with them, right? Get them as being references. The biggest outcome that we want to see is our customers are referenceable. So they will take calls, cold calls, sales calls from other prospects, right? So.
Great, so you both are working collaboratively with other functions, which is awesome. That's something we see a lot in customer success. And you both also talked about how customers having success, is the way I like to look at it, is something that the whole company owns versus customer success as a function within the company, which is kind of how you organize to make that happen. And there's different organizational structures, as we've learned here today. So to both of you, and I'm going to start with you, Sheri, this time. Share a story, about either a good or a bad thing that's happened with the CS team or with the customer experience as the company grew. And tell us a little bit, too, about the growth trajectory of Medallia.
Sure. And I neglected as part of my background to mention that I've been at Medallia for 14 months. So relatively new, because Medallia's been around for about 18 years. And so we are a fast-growing company, potentially, the statistics that Giri just said, we're not growing that fast anymore. But the company's been around for a while, and actually the company had started with a much higher mix of services to software than today. It's much higher, software to services mix. So there's been an evolution clearly along that front. So there was, of course, always the traditional professional services function that was always a big part of Medallia. And prior to joining Medallia, I was actually at Salesforce, so just a very different experience. I think Medallia is small, but I know Medallia is not so small compared to where a lot of the folks here in the room are. So I can't, in terms of the change of the customer success function at Medallia, I haven't been around for the entire sort of trajectory of that. But you also asked for a story. And I just want to, before I give a funny story about that, just to be clear around how we work together with marketing. I noticed I don't think there were any marketers that raised their hand in the room, are there? Oh, there's one, yay, hi. The both functions are obviously that, they're so critical. We in marketing, number one thing you need to be is customer oriented. You have to understand what customers, your existing customers, how do they feel about your products, your company, what do they care about, what are they having pains with, and of course same things for products. And we're always trying to learn that, and to be honest, the best places to learn that are with the people that are talking to our customers every day. So the customer success function is so critical for our team to be able to understand and be the feet on the street and to share, so I share. It's hard to pull out, we don't know what we're looking for, but when those trends bubble up, they're so critical. And the other thing, how we work together is my team's then responsible for making sure that everybody that talks to our customers and our prospects is well versed in all of the new feature functionality that we're coming up with, so they can talk about it and share it, especially, as Sheri said, with existing customers, because there's that's where a lot of the quicker wins might be. In terms of the story, I'm not sure if this is exactly what you're looking for, but I can't help sharing it. I love our customer success team because I got 3 people on my team, and I only have 10 people on my team right now who came from professional services, and I love them. And so it's maybe not a traditional path. The guy that runs customer marketing for me is a longtime medallion, been working with customers. He had the right temperament, relationships. He just naturally fell into that role of working with customers and figure out how to talk about Medallia. And then we had another couple people who were more junior in their career, had been doing professional services at Medallia, one of them for 2 years, another for 4 years. They were still trying to figure out what is their career, and they were looking around. We had conversations, and they had great marketing instincts. Even made them do a presentation, to the team, because I want to make sure our product marketers can articulate values and present to the company. And they did awesome, and they've been amazing, and they know more about the product than I do. So that's my favorite story about CS.
That's great, thank you. Giri, from your side, a story about a good or bad thing within the CS team as the company grew.
Well, this one is more of a success story, which is good, which I'll share with you folks. So early on, right, when you signed the largest customer ever in the history of the company, right, going to this large account, and it's a well-known retailer, your product will have challenges. This is a huge deployment, etc., right? The experience wasn't that great. We had hired our first customer experience manager, or CSM, right around that same time. So for us, the biggest advantage for the company was just seeing how they approach a customer issue or a set of issues, how they get people together, be it product management, be it engineering, be it sales, be it the professional services team. Just the outcome that this customer success manager brought, I think has allowed us to realize the value very early on of what this function brings to the table, right? So it was such an amazing experience over a few months that the customer not only is a customer today, but has expanded year after year, right? So it's a huge account. I can't obviously talk about what the financials were, but certainly allowed us then to make sure that they can demonstrate to the rest of the company what this function can literally provide, right, in these type of situations. And so it's allowed us to grow, right? Definitely allowed us to grow because we not only did we get the customer to be a customer and stay a customer, but they've expanded over time. And this is the same thing that we see with accounts that our customer success managers touch. Typically results in rebuys and expansion, and that's how we look at what the ROI of this team is. To us, it's just that we have customers for life.
Great. So you both shared positive stories. I'm going to dig in a little bit and see if either of you have a negative story, because we learn things more from mistakes. Anybody have a negative, something that happened, a customer that went wrong, something that we learned, or changing of how you manage the customer success or a customer engagement?
I don't know if this is something going wrong, but I will say something we struggle with. You always, of course, want to protect the relationship. It's priority number one, but our company or some of our folks on that team in particular are so. I don't know if it's nervous. People love Medallia. We get great scores, and people don't let we wanted the co-marketing and the customer marketing. It really is it's a win-win. We want to show that we've got a lot of customers who are transforming their companies around, and Medallia is a software tool to help do it. It's not the only thing that does it. You have to have the change management, the strategy, the commitment to make changes and focus on that. We want to help show all these companies that are doing great things on this space, and we have a hard time getting people to agree to let us tell their story. That's a win-win, and it really starts with the people that are talking to the customers. They're always hesitant for us to approach and talk to them. And we're not trying to do harm by anyone, but we've got people that are very close to the vest on that.
Protecting their customer, presumably. Okay, good. You have a negative, Giri?
I would just add to that, right? That's really what we see as well is account control. Who has account control, right? We want to be very clear that the account control is with the account team, which is the sales organization as well as their SE. What we want to make sure is that the customer success team is complementing that. We want them to feel that they have a partner that can work with them behind the scenes and make sure that they're the voice of the customer, right? So there's always a little bit of challenge for people that aren't accustomed to it to say, okay, why is this person involved, right? So trying to get them past that stage that these are people that will enable your success even more, that these accounts are going to grow even more because of the involvement, because you have the single point of contact that the customer can rely on and they become your trusted source. That took some little bit of coaching and learning, right? But now that people realize the value of it, it's very easy for us to engage as a cross-functional team.
So just a quick aside from the perspective of who owns the renewal revenue number in each of your companies, if you know? Do you?
For us, it's sales.
It's sales.
We have an account management team.
The account management reports up through sales, presumably, or do they sit at the table?
Things keep changing. They do not, but it's very hand in hand. I mean,
they work closely together.
They do. We have multiple. We don't have one sales leader either. So we are Leslie, who's our new CEO as of about 6-7 months ago. We have multiple sales leaders and account managers all reporting into him. So there isn't one sales head. So it's viewed on equal playing field.
Okay. Great, because I think for the customer success leaders in the audience, that's always a big debate of who owns the renewal, and when the renewal is owned by the customer success team, then often the account team no longer owns the customer success team owns the customer. And when the renewal is owned by an account team, then the account team owns the customer and not the customer success team. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer necessarily. It depends on your organization. But I do think amongst the CS executives that I know, there's probably a small bias that CS should own the renewal and own the customer as well. And it depends on the company. Great. So, for both of you, and I'll start with Giri this time, what are the key values, some very tangible, specific values that you think that customer success brings internally to the other departments? You guys have already talked a little bit about the marketing relationship and the possible values there, but are there other things? And what are the key values to your customers? What do you see as the key value your customers might perceive that the customer success team brings to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Right. So for us, given the customer success team is not really sales, they're being chartered to make sure that the customer realizes the outcomes that they purchase the product for. So with a single view of that, they have a cross-functional responsibility as well to share conversations, share feedback, and they have carte blanche at Rubrik to engage other organizations. So with be it product management, be it engineering, be it sales, be it finance, they become the single point of contact for the customer and really are the voice of the customer into the company, right? So they they're chartered with a lot, but they also get this creative freedom to make sure that they're representing the customer, number one. So when the other organizations know that is the case, it makes it a lot easier for them to open doors, right, within the company to say, we need this, customer has this request, we haven't fulfilled it, what's the plan to get this thing taken care of or resolved, right, or fixed. So they again, right, because of the fact that they are not tied into the sales organization directly, they're somewhat independent from it, and still are responsible for customer outcome. They play a fairly significant part for us in terms of how the customer is actually experiencing the product and services from us.
Sheri, same question. What are the key values that CS brings internally and to customers?
Well, I think internally, they're the ones interacting with the customer on a daily basis. What the value that they bring is they hold the keys to the kingdom, if you will.
They're the voice, like Giri said, yeah.
They're the voice, but I think yes, they're the voice, and we need more of that voice. But even more so, they represent Medallia. So they're the voice to us. But I'm even thinking like they're the ones that hold the keys to our customers' ultimate happiness. I mean, yes, they need to be happy with the product and all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, they're the conduit to making sure that our customers are getting what they need, so they can adopt the products that they have, understand how best practice. There's a lot in the business that we're in, people hungry for best practices and how do I do this and not reinventing the wheel. And our professional services team, they're it. That's who our customers interact with on a day-to-day basis. So I almost think they're the voice of Medallia. They represent Medallia.
They're the face of Medallia.
The face Medallia. Thank you. I was struggling for they're the face of Medallia, but it's yes. So that's what they bring internally and send to the customers. What's great is we're a feedback company, so we ask for feedback on everything and want feedback on everything. And of course, luckily because we're a feedback company, our customers give us feedback. They know that we need it. That would be awkward if they didn't. But our customers happen to love our professional services people. So it's really encouraging to see that, because we all know it's relationships that make or break everything.
Great. So kind of last question in the first section, which is about the high growth companies and how they manage with customer success, is Giri, what's changed or evolved in the CS organization from 2 years ago to now? And you said you went from like 6 people to 100 and some odd, and what's changed and grown in how you structure?
Yeah, obviously we've grown in the organization, but we also realized that just adding more and more resources without giving them the tools to be more successful is going to be detrimental to them, right? So what we have done is also complement people with a lot of tools, especially for workflow automation, because customer success managers need a system of record for all communication, right? So we've invested in some tools that allows them to easily use that tool to record all conversations, all outbound messages. Used to be days that customer success didn't have any tools. It'd be Excel spreadsheets or email communication. We've taken all that stuff out and given them some automation tools so that they can get quick alerts as well. We also are big into AI and machine learning. So our devices do report telemetry data to us, as well as phone home logs. All that data is actually harnessed with deep learning, machine learning, etc. Alerts are actually fired off to the customer success management team, so they're notified of something that may be going on or something they should do an outreach for. So the team is now able to do a lot more than they could do before because of the tools that we've invested in and some of the processes that we put into place as well, right? So again, I think for us, hiring is always number one. We have to keep hiring more people. But finding people also is a challenge, right? As we know, the economy is pretty strong. So we have to make sure we enable the folks that are there, that we don't burn them out, so give them a lot more tools and processes that makes their job easier to engage with.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next section. So you talked about a lot of things that changed as the organization grew. Did you specialize in functions within the customer success team? Or have you divided that way, or what kind of segmentation have you done?
we don't have the segmentation in the team as yet. Typically, the large enterprise deals that we sign always have a customer experience manager associated, so that we know that for being able to build customer lifetime value, we are looking to grow the initial sale into repeat sales over time, right? Not just from a renewals perspective. Fortunately, we don't have that problem as a company. Our attach rates are 100%, renewal rates are 100%. We don't have churn.
Good job.
So for us, it's more of, can the customer buy more? Is there an opportunity for us to expand our footprint within the data center or the cloud? So that's where the customer success team really comes in for us.
So your long tail, if you will, is something that just hasn't
Absolutely.
changed at all, and you don't put a lot of focus there.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. So Sheri, based on your experience and what you see in your customers, you've talked about how CS and marketing teams work together pretty closely already. Is there anything additional, that you've noticed in your 14 months there as the company has evolved?
Yeah, I think not so much as a notice a difference in the 14 months as much as as I mentioned, the company's growing fast. We're not growing as fast as that, but it's we're pretty big and have gotten to a size that a lot of, I think, in the early days where a lot of these conversations were happening so organically, where those connections and that feedback was happening, and it's happening but not happening enough because we're all doing our thing and moving quickly, and
You're inside your silos already, and you're pretty big, right?
Right. So we're big enough that those silos have formed, and so it's not so much that your question was around sort of change. So in the time that I've been here, they were already big enough, of course, that these silos existed, and trying to bridge those gaps. Yeah, I'm trying to bridge those gaps and stuff and learn more, but I think I haven't solved it because I think it unfortunately requires a little bit more formal structure. If you will, so more regular check-ins and all that, because we're only getting so much organically.
Mm-hmm. So I'll stick with you. We're going to move to our second section, which is kind of about customer marketing, customer experience, employee experience, and how they add up to value. And so I'll stick with you, Sheri. So who does customer marketing, and how do you define it? We'll start there.
Sure. So I mentioned, one of my favorite team members from the professional services team. He runs customer marketing for Medallia, so it's a team of one, which we define as leveraging our customers to evangelize Medallia. And so that's everything from getting customer stories, case studies, things that we can, if it's just share internally to train, but even better is the things that we're allowed to talk about externally. And whether that's testimonials in our press releases and speakers at our events and all of those great things, as well as reference program is a big thing that he runs to make that more efficient for everybody. And so that's sort of my traditional customer marketing side of the house. I do also, because I arrived at Medallia and some people when I said customer marketing, they were confusing with marketing to customers, which is actually something that we do on the product marketing side of the team. And thinking through, and again, a lot of it's working with customer success, but thinking through strategies on existing customers and what they have and what they maybe don't have, and how do we actually market to them in the context of the relationship.
And Giri, from your side, who does customer marketing at Rubrik, and how would you define it?
So it is much like what Sheri mentioned. It's part of our marketing team, the core marketing team, but they are a separate group that focuses on just making sure customers are happy. They are doing direct newsletters to them, building out our Guardian program, which is our promoters, right? Looking at how they're performing with the product, really kind of engage with them on a very personal basis. So again, different than corp marketing or product marketing, but still part of the overall marketing organization. So we partner with them heavily.
So in both of your cases, customer marketing sits inside of marketing. I'm going to take a contrary view to that. So in some companies, I know customer marketing is defined a little bit differently, and it tends to be more on the customer education, expansion, and add-on type marketing to customers. So it's webinars, it's newsletters, it's content of a different type than you would make as content for prospects. And we are starting to see, I'm starting to see with CS executives that I talk to, more and more of them having a transition at a certain stage, not sure exactly what that is, where some of that customer marketing then begins to get owned by the customer success team as opposed to the marketing team. So it's still very tightly integrated because they'll typically use Marketo if that's what you use or whatever it is, for the delivery of it, which marketing clearly owns and should. But the content creation side of the customer marketing tends to move over towards the customer success team because they have more depth of knowledge of what should the communication be to customers. And we don't really need customers signing up for webinars that are pitching the product that they already have. We want them having more specific content on how to expand their usage or engage more with us or add on features that they may not have. So I'll take a little contrary view on that. So next question to you on the customer marketing is more about customer experience. So how would you define, and Giri, I'll start with you, what's the intersection between customer experience and customer success?
So to me, they are very related. As I said at Rubrik, we call our customer success managers customer experience managers, right? The idea there being that if the customer experience is not good, they're never going to get to the point where you can call success, right? So for us, they're very, very intertwined. Customer success for us is an outcome. Customer experience for us is a journey. So it's the journey towards success. So we have our customer experience managers get engaged with accounts right from the POC stages, right? Pre-sales, right from the POC journey, all the way to a sale, and then obviously they are engaged with them for the customer life cycle. Right? So I feel personally that customer experience really feeds into customer success. Customer success is really directly an outcome of what customer experience brings so that the customers can be successful. Right? So it was intertwined.
Sheri, same question. What's the intersection between customer experience and customer success?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what Giri said. They're intertwined because ultimately, if the customer's experience isn't good, they're not going to be happy, and you as a company are going to view that the customer success is doing well. So it's not a hard line, right? This is a very blurred topic in my mind. And I'll answer the question a little bit in terms of thinking about it with Medallia, but then also in terms of what we do. We sell customer experience software to executives all over a company, and oftentimes they're customer success executives, they're CEO, they can be a CMO, because again, at the end of the day, everyone is trying to create a better experience, make the customer successful, they're happy, the customers are happy, they're successful, you as a business are going to grow and thrive. And so within Medallia, how does that blend? Again, I think this is hard for me to separate because our whole company is about customer experience and making our customers successful and driving experience. So it is a little fuzzy. It's blurry. I think we can separate it a little bit easier if you're thinking function, but I think even as we've talked about, the functions are blurring.
So I think there's this other category called employee experience, which I think everybody in this room knows that I like to use this little proverb, those who are well served, serve well.
I like good cheese comes from happy cows. Happy cows come from California.
But we know that employee experience definitely impacts customer experience and customer success, especially with those people who touch the customer. And I'm writing a book, and one of the chapters on it is on this, and I think that what a lot of companies don't realize is how much their employee experience bleeds into their customer experience, because everyone in a company touches the customer. And I mean, you can take it down to your accounts receivable clerk who's following up on a late bill, or there's just so many points of customer contact. So we know that employee experience definitely impacts customer experience and customer success. Share your perspective on this, including any tips that you might have about how to optimize or improve that. And I'll start with you, Giri.
Thanks. I think that's a great question. I was hoping you would ask that question because, again, engaged employees really are what's going to really make it happen, right? So if the employees are not engaged, if we're not investing in employees, to us it's equal, right? If you don't have an employee base that's engaged, you're not going to get a customer outcome because they will treat a customer not with the right intentions that we want them to have. So something that we do, which we're proud of, is none of our employees will actually even touch a customer or call a customer until they've gone through some training that we put them through all around customer experience management. Whether you're an engineer or you're a customer success manager, you all have to complete that training. It's basically about listening, about empathy, about outcome realization for a customer, why we do this job, what's the outcome that we can realize for our own professional careers as well. So we try to make sure that we're always complementing training. So onboarding is huge for us in terms of investments in that area for our employees. And then subsequent training, right, in terms of making sure that our employees are getting adequate amount of training because the products keep evolving. And unfortunately, support is a tough place to get people off cases to go get trained, so we are very deliberate in our motions in these areas to make sure that if employees are not getting trained, they're just going to feel that they're being left behind, right? And they're being thrown out in the front. So really important for us to make sure that employee investments are high. So training, education, learning more. We also invest in employee IT platforms that are there. Every employee in the organization gets a license to Pluralsight, for instance. If they want to learn more about cloud, here's another way for them to learn, right? So we try and make sure that there's plenty of opportunities for employees to learn, train, retrain, just to make sure that that they have the skill set, that they have the technology know-how, right? When they interface with the customer, we want the customer to feel that they're being listened to by an engineer, right? So we want them to know more than a customer knows, because that's the whole idea behind supporting customers, right? So we take it very seriously because we realize that under-investing in our employees will be detrimental to the company, right? We don't want to be losing employees because they were not trained, didn't get enough time for training because they're so busy, right? We compromise on that. Generally, when that happens, the employee leaves. And trying to bring someone in new and try and build those years of experience with your product, it's a very expensive proposition. It hurts the customer the most, right? So huge for us is we are equally vested in our employees as we are invested in the customer outcome. So we make sure that employees come first for us as well, right, as an organization.
That's great. Sheri, how about for you? What's your perspective on this, including any tips?
Yes, very passionate about employee experience, and we're stating the obvious here. You all know how important it is to the customer experience, and as well, of course, to your own retention. So, that piece, I can't help but laughing about the, good cheese comes from happy cows, but we've all been, I always think about one of my less than fun airline experiences. You've all had, I'm sure, travel where something's happened, you're delayed, it's crowded, all that. You get on the plane and you have a miserable flight attendant, and it just makes the flight that much worse.
Yeah.
Right. So we all know how important this is, but I think also it's training. All the things that Giri mentioned they're critical. But one of the things that we've found, we've done a lot of research on the intersection between EX and CX and how correlated they are. And yes, it's important to get feedback from employees and to understand their experience. And we talk a lot about employee life cycle and how they go through that. And it's all the way, even starts before you're an employee. It starts with your recruiting experience. And when you leave a company to become alumni, that's important. They're all critical. So it's important to understand that experience from the employee's perspective, and what's I think a lot of companies become surprised by what matters. And so that's critical. Understand the employees, how are they feeling about their relationship with your company. But what's almost as important, I think, isn't as obvious to people, is it's not just what can you do as being an employee, but it's how they feel about the job that they're doing and the impact that they're having. So part of what's that correlation is the more that the employees are involved in that customer success and making that customer successful and getting the feedback. So, in other words, employees who are seeing the feedback from the customers on the job that they're doing So you don't even have to fix anything else as a company in terms of how you're treating them as an employee. You get them engaged in the customer success, and they're able to see how they're helping people and the difference that they're making. And that's where the you get the real engagement and the super high scores, and things start rocking and rolling. And it's a cycle. The employee gets engaged, they get more happy with the customers get more happy. Everyone gets happy, and it's all wonderful.
It's the upward spiral.
It's the upward spiral. One other thing, whether it's a tip or not, I guess I view it as a tip. Getting feedback from employees is critical, not just on their experience, but on getting them engaged with the customers, but using them as a conduit for feedback on customers. I talked about it as from a B2B, I want to understand so I can market better, but I mean in terms of changing the experience. You as a company, especially a large company where it's a little harder to get the pulse, it takes a lot longer for a new problem to come through in your scores and your trends than if you actually listen to the employees who are hearing about a brand new problem like this, and you can make a real difference fast.
Great. So what I heard you guys say is that onboarding, training, engaging with employees matters a lot. Obviously, if you've had the kind of growth you've had in 2 years, you haven't had a huge turnover. I'm sure you've had some, but you're continuously growing, so you have to pay attention to that. And what I heard from Sheri, which is very complimentary and important about that, is tying the connection between the value that you're adding to your customers directly back to the employees who are actually adding that value, so that they feel like they're adding value. I don't know about any of you, but when I have a job, I think the biggest motivation for me is adding value, making sure I know I'm adding value. And I think that's just a human thing. So great answers. Given that we're talking about that, so how does the whole blend between customer experience, customer success, employee experience add value to your customers? Where does that come through to the customers? And I'll start with you, Giri.
I think the main thing is it easy for customers to engage with us? How frictionless is it, right?
Easy to work with, okay.
Easy to work with, right? Giving them multiple channels for them to engage with us. And channels of their choosing, right? We can't impose upon customers in this day and age how they engage with us. So we try and make it...
I want a text. No, I want a phone call.
Indeed. So we actually ask the customer when they're engaging with us, what's their preferred mode of engagement? Is it email? Is it a phone call? Is it SMS? Is it over the web? Is it over WebEx, right? So we try and tailor our experience, the engagement experience with them based on their preference, right? So that's really important that we are, giving the customer the opportunity to try and tell us how we want to engage with them and they want to engage with us, right? So I find that to be really important from a customer perspective. And just rolling up all these things about how they engage with us and trying to get feedback into the engineering product teams, etc. Right? That's we've realized the benefits of CS with a very simple metric. It's rebuys. How many customers that we've signed up are actually buying more over time, and that's to us is the outcome of the investments in customer success. Are they paying off or not? Right? And that's a very, very high percentage at Rubrik today. Is that customers, we land a customer, we always expand. Right? That's really the goal for us, and to us, that's really been the biggest benefit of customer success for us.
And Sheri, so here's a chance to pitch Medallia. How does
I think I did already.
EX, CS kind of add value to your customers?
I think I already did the pitching of Medallia, but I think also we've talked about this. We've when the employees are happy, everyone's happy. When you're just doing business with anybody and you're dealing with someone who loves their job, who is passionate about what they're doing, who can speak to whatever you're buying with enthusiasm and confidence, or deal with your problem with a immediate with empathy, with action, with accountability. All of those things. I mean, that's what makes for a great customer experience. And I think a lot of it actually comes down to empowerment. You empower your employees to do the right thing. Good things happen. I mean, I don't know if you all know this. I think it's gone viral pretty far, but I always love to use the Ritz example, where they gave every property manager, or I think every employee, in fact, like they have up to $2,000 to spend to make an experience great. And so there's stories around what different people have done. Somebody's laptop got left in the hotel room and it was an important presentation, and someone literally used the $2,000 to hop on a flight to deliver it to them. Other things don't even, a lot of that isn't even about the money, it's the spirit. My favorite story coming out of that, if anyone's heard it, a family with a young son left the favorite lovey at the Ritz, and they figured it out after they'd gone home, and they went and found it, and they sent the lovey back with a series of pictures and a letter to the young child, thanking him for letting, Lovey Joe stay at the Ritz for an extra day. And they sent all these pictures about, here's the lovey who is in the spa, and he was like by the pool and doing all these fun things. And the spirit behind, Ritz has created a spirit and empowerment and an environment where employees feel able to do those things, can express themselves and make the right call. And that's where you get a great customer experience.
Great. Excellent way to jump into Q&A. So we're going to spend about 10 minutes, I think, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how many questions you guys have, on some questions from the audience. So what do you guys want to know from our esteemed panel? Any questions in the audience? Don't be shy. Yeah,
there you go. I was like, anything?
Okay, I'm going to start in the back, in the plaid shirt. Yep.
What traits do you guys think are the most important to be a successful CSM?
So the question is, what traits do you think are most important to be a successful CSM?
I'll go first. So really important to have empathy, right? Know that your customers, have invested in your product or service. Owning an issue, right? Making sure that it's not deflected, or it's not my problem, somebody else's, right? So I think attitude is really important, right? To be successful. It doesn't matter what the background is that you come from, right? People say, what's the ideal profile of a customer success person? It can be from any background, right? The main skills are, how do you engage with people, right, on a day-to-day basis, right? Are you empathetic? Are you a good listener, right? Number one thing is to make sure you're able to listen and be able to translate a conversation into next steps, right? So I think having great listening skills and having a good attitude and being a good listener goes a long way.
Anything to add?
Not really. I'd add patience. Empathy was the first thing that came to mind. I'd add patience.
Okay. Other questions? Tom, you have your hand up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a question on, as one of the things do you measure is launching? Yeah, so yeah, I heard about the renewal rates and all that, but if you never get live, do you measure the go live rates,
The time to value.
the launch?
Time to launch. So
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think in the beginning, right, for us, the customer experience team gets involved right at the pre-sale cycle. So it's not going to come even after the fact. Traditionally, customer success has been brought in once a product has been deployed and turned over to the support organization. We took a very different approach. We said we want them engaged right from the pre-sale cycle. So they become part of the pre-sales organization during the POC. There's a POC going on, right? So we know when a customer is actually purchased, deployed in a POC, and time to value, because we get metrics. They can look at the usage metrics and determine very quickly if they are using the product or not.
do you have any product telemetry at Medallia that tells you when they're fully deployed? And
Well, our services people are so involved in the deployment, so it's less about the telemetry around it. We just sort of there's real gates and steps along the way, so everyone's very informed on it. That and it's scoping that out as part of the sales cycle, and it gets very exact around time to value.
what's the length of a typical project for each of you? Is it a deployment project? Is it pretty fast to get up and running and start to see value?
For Medallia, it all depends on how custom versus out of. We have a lot of pre-configured best practice package, configurations and packages that we've done. That brings a much quicker time to value. Medallia started as our first customer was Hilton, so we started very high enterprise. So at Medallia, it runs the gamut, depending, because we can go completely custom all the way. but we have a lot more,
How about at
membership.
Rubrik?
For us, the premise of the product was we want to bring the iPhone simplicity, so it has to be very intuitive. We have customers that deploy the product on their own, and they start using the product in the first hour. So
Okay.
it's that simple.
It's pretty fast, okay. Other questions?
not that
Paul?
You talked about technology, I think we all agree it's a great way to scale. What was your journey, like what did you introduce, what's been most beneficial, and when did you introduce it?
So let me repeat the question. So from a technology perspective, which helps you scale, what did you introduce and when did you introduce it?
So we did a fairly exhaustive search for a customer success platform, and there's many names out there, right? We did POCs with a whole bunch of them. The reason we wanted that to be in there is for scale. We want to automate the daily communication. We want to automate plans of action, workflows. If you're handling an escalation, what was the outcome of the escalation? What was the RCA? If you don't have a system of record, you have nothing to leverage. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, either in Excel spreadsheets or emails. So very early on, say about a year or so time frame, we started doing the search to make sure that our customer success managers have a tool that they can use to engage with their customers through the entire life cycle. So, and we are a customer of Strikedeck, who is the sponsor of this event.
I just wanted to hear Strikedeck, that's all.
Okay.
Actually, let me just do a quick follow-up, because I wasn't sure, did you suggest, are you not using a CRM at all, or you?
We are. We use Salesforce Service Cloud. Okay. It's completely integrated with Strikedeck for us.
Other questions? Yeah.
I'm curious on your philosophy on the monetization of customer success role. Are you guys thinking about charging for the role? Do you add that?
We do. We already do.
Yeah.
So the question was on monetization of the customer success role. The answer is yes. Yes, back there, and then I'll come up here.
Question for Giri. I actually saw your video on LinkedIn the other day that you made for the Sentry AI, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's a hybrid, cloud management platform. That's your core business, and now you're slowly moving into the whole customer success management. Of course, drinking your own champagne. Can you talk a little bit more about what it is, what it does, and things like that?
Yeah. So Sentry AI really is, I talked about, we get telemetry data from our deployments, whether they're on-prem or in the cloud, we still get the same level of data. In fact, when the company shipped its first product, we had telemetry data from the first unit that we shipped nearly 4 years ago, right? So we've got petabytes and petabytes of customer data. Customer data as in how are they using our appliances, what type of features have they enabled or not, right? So what we've done with Sentry AI is really to start looking at trends, being able to look at how our customers deploy, what type of features do they use the most, what type of features do they not use the most, right? What type of cases result from which features, right? So we are able to, these are the tools that we are giving to, the outcomes of these tools are going to our customer success team. So they know, before they even call a customer, they have all the data that they need about the customer, including their health scores, right, that we map automatically based on the experience that they've had with the product, issues they may have had in the past, right? So we are constantly looking at that data and then applying some deep learning and machine learning techniques on top of that data. We're able to draw outcomes. So we can do anomaly detection, for instance. I may be customer A, I'm using feature X, Y, and Z, they report a problem. We can very quickly take that same signature and put that against our entire install base and forecast how many customers will see this problem. Not that they've already seen it, but at what period of time will they see it based on resource utilization, based on unique, almost hundreds of vectors that go into that determination. So we're able to very quickly forecast and proactively reach out to our customers, let them know that we've seen an issue, and since you're running because of these reasons, we believe you're susceptible to it. So this is where the value comes in of proactive support and prescriptive support, right? So we are morphing as a company, as an organization. In addition to having really good reactive support, we just released our NPS, which was just audited. Our NPS is at 82 right now.
Wow.
Right? So,
Nice.
so it's verified there, so we still want to keep that number, not only do we want to keep that number, we want to get past that number. And my vision is that it's all around proactive and prescriptive services going forward. So as much as we know about our customer and customer journey and how they use our product, and be able to make informed decisions based on that using machine learning, etc., and being able to give them advisory services on top of that that's why I say about renewals, it's not a problem for us at all, because customers want to renew with us because we give all these additional services on top of this, right? So
Okay, we're gonna take 2 more questions, one here and then I'll get you, Gavin. Naveen?
Yes, so Sheri, you mentioned about the feedback. There needs to be more of it, and I come from a product management background, so we are always craving, sort of for more feedback from the customers, and it's fantastic that the customer success role is now evolving, where we have this plethora of information, where dedicated CSMs are collecting this information, which product managers may not have had all the time to do because they're dividing their time in so many things. Have you seen a practice develop in your organizations where the feedback from the CSM team is going back to the product evolution and the product roadmaps as well as to, have you find some sort of a balance of the quantification of the frequency and the quality of the feedback that comes back from the CSM to the product teams?
So just to recap, there's a gap, and now we have more feedback coming in from the customer success managers, but what are you seeing in terms of the quality and the quantity of that data getting back to the product and actually qualitatively improving it? I think that's what you're asking.
I would say 100% for us, right? Because we are somewhat blessed because we have a lot of data.
You're also early.
That comes to us anyway from not just conversations that we have with customers, but even the system is telling, the system of truth, which is our software is giving us telemetry data as well. So the entire company relies on that to be able to make sure that we're doing the right things. And obviously, if you complement that with the customer conversation that our CSMs are having with our customers, there's a lot of credibility that you bring. So when we go to product management, which is almost on a daily basis, we engage with them, right? Because they want to know how things are running and how customers are doing. So to us, we are literally lockstep with the product management and the product team, including engineering. Right?
What about you, Sheri?
Yeah, I'd say we're getting plenty of feedback from the customer in terms of we're using, of course, our own tools to get feedback from our customers. So I look at that every day. I would actually say we're not in lockstep in getting the feedback directly from our success folks, because it's not, that's what I mentioned before, it was easier when the company was smaller, and that's happening a bit more organically. And it's more challenging as we've grown, and so, and just, we should be using our own tools. Some things that I mentioned in terms of how, it's not that there's zero feedback, but it's, we're trying to figure out how to, what are the trends, what are the important things, getting the signals, getting them faster, and I don't think we have that nailed.
I think you're going to find from when I talk to other executives, I think you're going to find it's all over the map. I do think that we did a session a couple months ago about our product and success, the new power couple. And I think they are. I think that they're going to have to get closer and more integrated and better, but it's a long ways out. Last question, Gavin.
So following up on the monetization question, kind of a multi-part question, do you have different tiers of service that you offer from a customer success standpoint, and how do you differentiate across those? And what kind of penetration are you seeing within your customer base for success services?
So just to repeat for the video, do you have, on the monetization, do you have different levels of monetization that you're doing? How are you doing that in order to, and what was the last part?
And what kind of penetration?
And what kind of penetration do you have amongst your base in the monetization? You probably have to answer that, Gavin.
I can go
I don't
first.
think
I can answer the former part in terms of we do have different offerings at different money. I don't actually know that penetration, and it's both for support as well as service level embedded experts. And we have a whole menu portfolio. Yeah, I was gonna say menu, if you will. And also we have different offerings depending on the stage of the company, both with us, but also their maturity level with CX or EX. But I don't know the percentage.
Yeah, so similarly for us, we have a portfolio of offerings. In addition to your traditional enterprise support, this is where customer experience managers come in. That's a value-added service on top. So for large enterprises that are accustomed to having technical account managers or customer success managers, we try to attach that to the deal right up front, right? So we're still kind of learning. This is fairly new for us in terms of monetizing this. We're still early to call out what the percentages might be for this, but we see that as we work with the Global 2000, this is bread and butter, this is stock for them. They do want a customer account manager assigned to them also an ask and a need in some of these enterprises that they want assigned points of contact, even in support, for instance, or even dedicated support. So all these are available as an optional add-on, right? We don't push this, but we see that customers are pulling this from us as opposed to us pushing it.
Last kind of follow-up question on that. So for all those customers that aren't monetized, you're not selling success services in, do you have a foundational type engagement or support from a success standpoint?
Indeed, that's required for all customers. So every customer actually has a enterprise support contract with us that entitles them to technical support, maintenance releases, feature upgrades, 24/7 support around the world.
And that's part of their base subscription.
That is base. Every deal is sold with that, in the very least. And then obviously we are on value-added service, including professional services for that matter.
Who are the happiest customers?
I'm sorry.
We said last question.
That was the last question. I'm helping this guy. You forgot to ask him. Who's the happiest customer? The NPS is outstanding. Do you see people who have a certain package have a better NPS?
Generally when you look at the large enterprise, we find that it's better to actually have a customer experience manager attached, because again, they are operating at very different lenses. They're completely proactive, right? They see everything coming in. They can spot a trend before it becomes a trend. So they're looking at signals to see how things are working. To us, it's been a tremendous investment on our part that we invested early in this area. The outcome is being realized still, and we expect to realize this outcome for years to come. But for us, the learning lesson here was to make sure that for the large enterprise, you can't just sell the product or a service and be done with it. There's a relationship that you want to build with them just to build customer lifetime value, and that's what we are seeing.
Great answer.
So one last question to the panel for you guys. What's one piece of wisdom that you want to leave this audience with? I'll start with you, Sheri.
Oh gosh. I'm trying to think what I haven't already, something that I haven't already said before. I mean, I think at the end of the day, key theme here is how important our success teams are, both because again, being the face of your company, but also from being a internal partner to this team. We need you, and I think the most, because my customer success is so focused on the customer, don't lose sight of what you can do for the rest of the company by sharing what you're seeing and learning, because that can, I'm not saying drop the customers on that, but I'm just saying that what you can do from a scale and impact internally with the other functions by getting what you know and what you're seeing is, invaluable.
That's a great one. Giri?
I would just say that as we discussed, that this role is getting more and more prominent and more strategic, not just at SaaS companies, but we're seeing this in traditional companies as well. I'd also encourage you guys to look at tools. The landscape is changing fast, which is great. There's lots of tools available to make the whole function of customer success more repeatable, right? So that more can be done with less. Your customer success managers can do a lot more in terms of engagements. So don't be shy to look around and see what type of tools exist to make them more successful, because clearly we know that enabling them has huge ramifications for the success of the company. So look around you, make sure they're looking at tools to enable that team with more technology so they can be more efficient, they can be more clear in their communication, and they can bring good feedback into the rest of the company.
So I want to, just a couple things. I want to thank our speakers. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to thank the audience for coming out tonight as well. And again, our sponsors, Autodesk and Strikedeck. And join us next month in Oakland on the 18th of April, where Paul Reeves, raise your hand, Paul, will be moderating a very interesting panel on early stage companies and customer success in early stage companies at CS Imaging. I don't know if I said it right. We've got Joseph Kwan, who's the CEO of Switchboard, and Sangeev. Twain Labs, okay. And Sangeev Sisodia, CRO of Postman, and others to be named soon. So thank you all for coming out. There's a few more minutes for networking. There's still food left. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you for having us. And
Yes,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Questions?